June. Here we go. So I'd like to welcome you and thank you for investing your time to come along this afternoon. And the fact that you're here really shows that you're serious about sales in your business. This is going to be an informal and interactive presentation, so let's have some fun together. Please open your chat box on your screen, which you'll find at the bottom of the tab in the Zoom panel, as I will be asking you to type in some of your answers into the chat box as we go through this workshop. You will want to take notes as we go through the presentation, so make sure that you've got a pen and paper handy. Now, the rules of the game today is to participate. I'll be asking some questions as we go through the sales workshop. So if you'd like to say something, either please raise your hand or come off mute and ask. We're all friends here. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Phil Badura, and I'm honoured and feel very privileged to have gained significant business knowledge throughout my 30+ years in senior management within the corporate food industry, and then being in business for myself since 2006. So during that time, I've been responsible for implementing significant cultural change in many different and varied business environments. And I look forward to sharing some of that with that experience with you today. So my purpose here today is to challenge your way of thinking about sales, especially in your business, and to offer some alternate ideas for improving your business sales processes now and also into the future. My goal is to inspire you to identify 3 to 5 key things that you can take away to immediately implement in your business that will change the way in which your customers view your business and ultimately buy from you and not your competitor. Now, we've got a lot to cover today, so take as many notes as you need. And if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. Now, I'll give you a heads up as well. At the end of the workshop, I will be asking you for your 3 to 5 key things that you're going to implement in your business as a bit of an accountability call. Is that okay? All right. So before we get into the detail, let's just a little bit about learning. And the first one that I want to cover off is the point of power. Now, we all know people that lay in their bed and all they want to do is lay blame, find excuses, even worse, live in denial. By the same token, we also know people that take their oar and steer their ship in the direction that they want to go. And they do that through ownership, being accountable, and also being responsible. Now, when you're below that point of power, you're actually in a powerless situation. You don't know what to do next, and you really do struggle with being below that point of power. Above the point of power is when you're in that position of being powerful. You know what direction you want to go in. You know what the next steps will always be. So above the point of power is about the what, the when, and the how. And then below the point of power is about the who, the why. And when you get down in that denial area, it's about withdrawing. And that's really not a good place to be. In business, especially in business. So below the point of power is about the reasons, and above the point of power is about results. Now, the only failure is the failure to participate. So in order to achieve the most out of today, give 100% and you'll get 100% back. So, one of the things that we can ask, how many mistakes have you ever made in life or business? Hands up. I can put 2 hands up and probably 2 legs as well. So now we're all experts at it. So when you think about learning, we learn to walk by falling down. notice, our kids are not crawlers anymore. So do I have everybody's agreement that you're willing to play 100% a day at least? Hands up, yes. Okay. Now, to get the most out of the time here today, you must be open to learning some new things. Now, has anybody got teenage kids? All right. Have you ever had them fold the arms in front of you and say, I know, you can't tell me? What we like to do here is we eliminate from our vocabulary, I know, and we replace that with, isn't that interesting? And what that does is, when you say, isn't that interesting, it really opens your mind to new possibilities, different things. I actually love it when I'm with my grandkids and they do you can't tell me, Grumps. I say, isn't that interesting? And it really gets a great reaction from them because it does open up their minds. Now, the first thing for the chat box is when I ask this question, what are the first three things that come to your mind when I say this question? So get ready to type in the chat box. The first three things that come to your mind when I say salesperson. I'll just open the window up here. So, yep, start typing. All right, pushy, hovering, closing sales, pushy, dodgy, money, moneymaker, consultant, buying facilitator, professional expert. Okay. Pushy, fake friendly, charismatic. Isn't that interesting? We've got some quite varied and different answers there. So let's explore all of that a little bit further. Now, can I have a show of hands here? Who is in sales here? 1, 2, 3 hands. There, 4 hands. Angie, was that your hand going up then? Yep, okay. That's great because in Zig Ziglar's words, he says, I have always said that everyone is in sales. Maybe you don't hold the title of salesperson, but if the business you are in requires you to deal with people, yes, you, my friend, are in sales. So we don't need to do another show of hands again, because everybody recognizes that they have partly a sales role in their positions. Now, most people have a challenge with sales, and more often than not, it is around their own mindset about salespeople. But it doesn't need to be that way. So when you expand on your own mindset about salespeople, it really does change the way that you think about them. And let me give you an example. When I went to Action Coach training almost 10 years ago, one of the parts of the training was they asked us this question. Now, there was 13 of us in the room. 3 of us came up with some of the, the pushy, dodgy, only after the money type of answers. But 10 in the room came up with very, very positive comments. And the most common ones that those 10 people used was a salesperson is, first of all, the face of the business. The second thing is that they are revenue generators. And the third most common one came up was that they were problem solvers. Now, for me, this was a real, smack in the face. because I really didn't view salespeople in the brightest light at all. And so when this came about, it really changed my mind, because one of the things that I didn't realize, that as I was starting my action coaching business, that at least 50% of what I was going to be doing was going to be sales. I had not made that connection. I thought I was going to be a coach. So what it has done for me, though, has really changed my mindset about salespeople. And I think that, you know, this is a really important aspect to take on board. So when you think about salespeople, I'm sure that you've all come across people that have got great sales skills, but you've also probably come across some people that haven't had so good at sales skills. And if I can just relate a story here, I was working with a client once that had a retail component to their business. And they had some salespeople in there, and they kept asking, why are we not making the sort of sales that we should be? We've got lots of people coming into the shop and lots of people walking out without anything in their hands. And so when we had a really good look into the salespeople that they'd engaged, what we found was that some of them were shy, meaning that they really didn't like to communicate with the customers coming into the store. Some of them actually had low technical knowledge, because the types of products they were selling were quite technical. But the most important thing we found was that they didn't have any sales training. This business hadn't conducted any sales training for their staff in how to engage with the customers properly, you know, understanding a lot about their own products and services that they were offering. But it's important that as a salesperson, that you've got to overcome the shyness. You've got to be prepared to speak with people. So sales is about, when you know how, with those skills, you will be able to improve your sales conversion rates. Now, what is selling? When you adopt the professionally helping other people to buy mindset, not only will you feel more comfortable in yourself, but your customers will also feel more comfortable, as they will feel like they're not being sold to. Now, can I just ask, how important is sales in your business? You can come off mute and answer that one. How important is sales in your business?
Utmost importance.
Okay.
Fundamental.
Fundamental. Fiona?
Mission critical. If I don't sell people, then they don't pick me, and I can't help them, and we can't make money.
Yep. Any other responses? Selena?
Yeah, I was going to say it would be very, very important, because if they don't know about me and they don't find me friendly, they're not going to want to work with me. So
yeah,
important.
Yeah. Okay. So sales is the crux of every business. If you're not making sales in business, do you actually have a business? Yes or no?
Nope.
Absolutely not. So, and this is why it's important that you develop your skills, you develop your knowledge, you do some training to build that experience in sales. So how much sales training have you undertaken in your business for yourself and all your teams? Yep. Anybody want to answer that one? Okay, not enough recently, none so far, none yet. Okay. Now, all right, so let's what's important here is that with sales, it's not something that you go and attend a training course once. You need to keep on training. So, and there's a number of ways that you can do training. It's attending workshops like this. It's watching YouTube's sales training on YouTube. It's reading books. It's attending other courses. So sales training is something that you just need to keep on doing, if I can really make that point. So in Jason Day's words, no matter how tough you think you are, you can't do it on your own. So today we're covering a lot of material as an overview of the things that you should be considering as part of your sales processes. Now, we're currently seeking expressions of interest in a 12-week online sales and customer service training program, and I'm going to cap the participation level at 10 participants. So each week it would involve watching a 30-minute video on that week's topic, and then attending a 1-hour online workshop each week to discuss what the learnings you've had, the actions that you take or intend to take, and also an accountability on the results achieved from the actions that you committed to in the prior week. At the end of this workshop, I'll give you an opportunity to consider what steps you'd like to take with developing and expanding your knowledge in sales and business. So there's 4 types of salespeople. The first one is the order taker. And the order taker is somebody that waits for somebody to ask before they buy anything. I've worked in some businesses in my corporate career that was the role of the salespeople was just to pick up the phone, make a quick call, and take the order. Then we have the product pusher, who talks about nothing more than what the product is. And I'm sure that we've all come across some product pushers before. Then we've got the oversellers. They promise the world just to get the sale. Certainly my experience has never been pleasant with an overseller. And then we have problem solvers. So the problem solvers are there to help the customer find out what it is that they need. And when you look at these 4 different sales types, which type of salesperson do you need in your business? Please type that into the chat box. Problem solver. Yep, exactly right. So when you become the problem solver, effectively you're taking that perception of salesperson not only out of your mindset, but also out of the mindset of the customer. So if you're there to help and professionally help somebody to buy, then you start to really develop those sales skills that are important to you. Now, when we talk about a sales process, what is a sales process? So this is where you really need to sit down, think what your sales process is, and document it out step by step, right from when you start marketing, right through in this particular example, it's the introduction, gaining more favorable attention, discovering what the wants and needs are, presenting solutions, gaining commitment, and follow-up. So this is a simple example of what a sales process will be. And it will differ from business to business, industry to industry. A more detailed example is this one here, which goes through step 1, step 2, right through to step 5, sales prep, the introduction of an offer, handling resistance, closing the deal, and then there's two aspects to it, which is the marketing and prospecting side, and then there's also the sales and the prospect management. So that's just another example. And another one is the 5-step sales process. So, it's important to define and document every step of your sales process. This is important to ensure that the entire team is following every step of your sales process. Every team member involved with dealing with customers is properly trained in the sales process, ensuring that you've got consistency with how the business then conducts sales. The end result is that you'll see a significant increase in your conversion rates, happier customers who will be more inclined to come back to you and your business more often and refer you to their friends and family. So a well-defined sales process should break down every part of the step in the process. In this example, it's well documented of what each step is in that process. So if you haven't already documented your sales process, what I encourage you to do is to get some sticky notes, and start writing down everything in your sales process, stick them up onto a wall, and then start to move them around and adjust them to what comes next in your process. Once you've got that documented, it's then easy, not only for yourself to follow, but for any of your team members to follow as well. So do people buy on logic or emotion? Type your answer into the chat box, please. Emotion, then justify with logic, emotion. Isn't that interesting, Fiona? So people buy on emotion and justify with logic. You must have attended one of these before, Fiona.
I have. And then I looked at how I buy stuff and I went, oh, crap. That's how I do it.
Yep. So can you remember a time when you bought something on impulse and then later on wondered, why on earth did I buy that? When you understand this principle, you can then tailor your approach to sales as a salesperson and as a customer yourself. So it's important that you learn from your own learnings and dealings with other salespeople. So sales made simple. True communication is the response that you get regardless of your intent. And I want to share a story here with you that really puts this into context. So I spent some time working in New Guinea a number of years ago, and whilst I was there as an expat running a chicken processing plant, and I was out in the yard of the plant one day talking to one of my other expat compatriots, and we were discussing things about how can we improve what was happening at this particular manufacturing site. And whilst we were standing there, Tom, who was the expat's name, called one of his staff over and he said, "Hey, Bocky, can you come over here for a sec, please?" And he said to Bocky, "See that pile of rubbish over there?" And he pointed to it. "Can you grab the ute?" And he pointed to the ute over there. "Can you put the rubbish in the back of the ute, take it down to the back corner of the paddock, and can you burn it for me, please?" Anyway, so we saw Bocky drive off, and Tom and I continued to keep talking. About 10 or 15 minutes later, Tom said, "Where's Bocky? He should be back by now." And about another 5 minutes passed, and then all of a sudden we see Bocky walking up the road. And when he gets to us, Tom says, "Bocky, where's the ute?" He said, "But boss, you told me to take it down the back and burn it." And I did. So I guess the moral to this story is that you must be really, really careful with how you are communicating, and are you really getting across the message that you initially intended. So let's look at this in a little bit more detail. Now, there's 3 tools of communication. There's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Now, it's important to understand what we call VAK, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So visual is obviously those people that tend to see things. Auditory is, where people hear things. And then kinesthetic is where people, they need to touch and feel it and, have a sensory aspect to the communication. Now, what we know is that 40% of the people are visual, 20% are auditory, and 40% are kinesthetic. So when we're communicating with somebody, what we have to be alert to is what I call the VAK word cues. So if somebody's visual, they'll be using words like see and look. Whereas if somebody's auditory, they'll be using words like tell, hear. And if somebody's kinesthetic, they'll be using words like feel, touch, hands-on. So when you're communicating with somebody, it's listening for what words they're actually using, which will give you a clue as to whether they're visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, so that you can then adjust the way that you're communicating with them. The other 3 tools of communication are about words, voice, and body language. So it's the words that you use, the voice that you use, the intonation, and then also the body language that is going to, I guess, really have an impact on how the other person is receiving your communication. A great book to read about this is Alan Peace's Body Language. Has anybody read that one before? All right, so when you communicate, it's an awesome book in how to really, I guess, read and understand and communicate with people. So the words that we use only represents 7% of the communication that we use. Our voice represents 38%, and then our body language is 55%. So when you think about body language, that's the unspoken words, yet it represents 55% of our communication. Isn't that interesting? All right, so DISC profiles. Can I have a show of hands that anybody that understands DISC profiling? 3. So Andy, it was Andy, wasn't it? Yeah. So you have it. All right. Let's have a look at this. So essentially, with this, we have 4 key personality profiles in our makeup, and we each have a little bit or a lot of each one of these. So the D stands for dominance. The I is for influence. The S is for steadiness, and the C is for conscientiousness. And what this is designed to do is to teach you more about how you think, act, and behave, and why. And once you understand how you think, act, and behave, you can then start to understand that how other people behave as well. And through the DISC profiling, you'll quickly understand, I'm sure that you've met people that you've had an instant rapport with and got on instantly. You've also, at the opposite end of the scale, just met somebody and think, wow, I really don't think that I can connect with that person. So it's when you understand the DISC and all the reasons why that it allows you to communicate better with other people. It helps you manage your staff much better. And more importantly, when you understand DISC, it helps you to understand your customers much better as well. So that again, you can adapt your communication in really building that relationship with them. So I've already just explained the DISC assessment. This is just an example. There's two graphs that the assessment gives you. One is the adapted style, which is how we would operate under a normal daily circumstance. And then there's the natural style, and you can see how it changes. And the natural style is when we come under stress and pressure, what's the natural style that we would fall back into? There's also a sales IQ development assessment. And the sales IQ assessment is an objective analysis designed as a personalized map of your own sales knowledge at this moment in time. It tells you where you're at, it tells you why you are there, and it also tells you where to go to learn what it is that you may need to improve on. This is not an assessment of your intelligence, except as it relates to selling. However, sales intelligence can be increased through learning. So when you take the assessment, you respond to 48 actual sales scenarios with the best to worst scorecard. Your results are included in this sales IQ assessment, and those results come complete with all the why, or what the rationale is behind your answers. And it's really a personalized assessment and 48 mini sales lessons. But more importantly, how well or how poorly you score on this sales IQ assessment can tell you how to customize your sales training rather than using a one-size-fits-all program. So when you focus your sales training and coaching on strengthening your strong points and finding strategies and resources for those weak points. So when you understand where your strengths may be in sales, where they're not, at least you can start to work on them and start improving those skills. Now, I've had people take this assessment before and tell me before they took the assessment that they felt that they weren't very good at sales. What was interesting when the assessment came back, they were much, much stronger in a lot of areas that they hadn't even considered. So it is a great assessment to take. Now, great salespeople, I'm sure that we've all had an experience where we felt that we were being sold to. When you focus on your prospect and get to the root of their problem and offering a solution, you avoid the selling of a product-only situation. So it's important that you understand that great salespeople have a purpose. They focus on you, not your product, and you'll always come out in front. Now, I want to just explain the old selling model versus the new selling model. So in the old model of selling, 10% of the sales process was devoted to establishing rapport. 20% was then taken in qualifying, 30% was in selling and presenting, and then 40% of the sales process was then focused on closing the sale. Can anybody relate to an experience you've had in that process? And hands up? Yep. So the new way of selling is where 40% of the process should be spent on developing trust and rapport. 30% needs to be in defining what the needs and the problems are that your customer has. And we'll get into shortly how to actually do that. And then 20% is spent then on describing the features and the benefits, and only 10% is on closing. So the new way of selling is about building trust, problem solving, and solutions rather than just making the sale. This is how will this change in the new world we're going to in the future? Again, most sales in the past has been done face to face. A lot of sales in the future is now going to be done on Zoom or virtual meetings. So how many of you are actually using Zoom or virtual meetings as part of your sales process now? Yep. It's becoming more and more often. And I think that's one thing we can thank COVID for. Okay, the problem solver's best weapon is questions. Have your prospect do the selling for you. So are we all in agreement that as salespeople, we need to be problem solvers? Yes or yes? Absolutely. All right, so the questioning process. So when you're trying to establish what it is that your customer is needing, it's important here that you ask a question. So has anybody learned this concept in sales training before? Anybody? Yes or? Right, Fiona. So what the question process is, you ask a question as the salesperson. Your customer gives you an answer. You then ask another question. They'll give you another answer. It's then what you need to do is to dig a little bit deeper. Once you've got those couple of answers, dig deeper. So you ask another question and they give you another answer. Dig deeper again. Another question, another answer. So it's about keep digging until your customer reaches that point of emotion where they ask you a question. When they ask you a question and you give an answer, you can assume the sale. Does that make sense for everyone? So what's important here is that you've developed, so what you do need to develop is some scripts to use as part of that question funnel process. So, yeah, the questions will vary from business to business, industry to industry. What's also important that as part of the questioning process is that you need to start evaluating your customers as to what their DISC level is, whether they're in a high discipline, whether they're influencers. So with influencers, they like to talk and chat. The steadiness, they don't like change. And conscientious is they like to analyze things. They like to get as much detail as they can. Whereas the dominant discipline people, they will make quick, fast decisions and they want the results. So it's important to train all your team members with what the scripting is, what it's for as a component of your sales process. So you need, once you've got the scripting, and when I say scripting, I don't mean writing down that people have to say exactly this script. It's understand the scripting should be a generic thing that gets the person to ask the right question in a way that they actually feel comfortable. Does that make sense? All right, you must be comfortable in how you're asking those questions. So my question or even challenge to you is, How many sales are you missing out on because you have not developed your sales process and or developed some basic scripts for each part of that process? Too many. Just write it into the chat box. How many sales do you think you're missing out on? All right. Now, again, the question funnel. So what's the question funnel? It's about asking open-ended questions. It's about being specific, finding solutions, then temperature checking, and then asking some detailed questions. So I guess, those open-end questions can be about the who, the where, the what, the when, the why, and the how. And then one important aspect here is to play dumb and dig deep. Now, what I mean by playing dumb is how often when you find yourself in a sales situation, are you, because you might know the customer, you might think you know what it is that they want, that you make the assumption that you already know the answer, so you don't ask the question. Too often, I've seen it happen where by playing dumb and actually asking the question, what the salesperson thought was the right answer is actually not the right answer. The customer actually wanted somebody else. So playing dumb is about getting clarification, asking the question anyway. One of the, I guess, the mistakes that salespeople make is that they jump to conclusions too quickly or too early. So avoid doing the mind read and thinking you know the answer before they actually tell you. It is important to play dumb and ask an appropriate question to confirm what the customer really means or what it is that they're thinking. So remember the Ute story I shared a little while ago? What Tom really meant versus what Bocky thought he meant was two completely different things. So just beware that you don't fall into that as part of your sales processes. I guess it's also another example of how to use the DISC principles when you're communicating with a customer. So some question softeners. So again, when you're in the questioning process, you can ask questions as softeners such as, can I just ask? Blah, 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 blah. That's a question softener. You might want to be writing these questions down, by the way. The next one is, by the way, did you blah, 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 blah. Another question that you can soften that you can use is incidentally. What I mean by, and you can go on just using these question softeners. So great ways to really start getting the questions and answers that you actually need as part of your process. So never just take the order. When you ask questions, no matter what, you may find out that they need other things in addition to what it is that they are initially asked for. For example, somebody may be inquiring about drilling a hole in a piece of wood. So by asking additional questions about the purpose of the hole, it may lead to additional sales such as drills, a bevel tool, anchor bolts, and the list could go on and on and on. So never just take the order, always ask the question, what are you using this for? What's the purpose? Just as an example. So ask questions irrespective. It's important that you just do keep asking questions. So while you ask questions, give out little pieces of information. and talk in the prospect's language. So again, I'm going to come back to the DISC here. When you understand their DISC profile, you can talk in their language. Focus on the language that you use in your communication style and be conscious of the language that your prospect is using, and do that through the VAK, the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and also the DISC characteristics in the way they act. That is, whether they're direct and indirect, guarded or open. So again, when you learn DISC, these are some of the things that you'll get to understand. Remember, always keep in mind what type of objections you may encounter as you get closer and closer to the end of the sales process. Be asking questions and providing solutions that will assist in dealing with any of those objections before you actually get to the point where you ask for the sale. Now, after you've reached emotion and you've gathered the information, you can ask solution questions or statements. So based on what you told me, Tony, we'll use Tony in this example. So based on what you told me, Tony, would X solution or Y solution, which would suit you best? So remember, it's an either or solution. So based on what you've already told me, would A or B or X or Y solution suit you best? Again, that's another one that you might want to write down. Have this in your armor of your sales process. So when you've offered a solution, it's important to start checking the prospect's or your customer's temperature and then ask a detailed question. And so some of the examples of temperature checking questions, again, you might want to write these down, is how does that fit with what you had in mind? Another one would be, which one fits best with what you had in mind? So again, these are temperature checking questions that you can be asking. Another one is, do you have a figure in mind for this project? So particularly when you know, again, depending on what types of industries that you're in, particularly trades and manufacturing, this is where, you know, people will be having larger projects in mind, but you need to understand what their budget is for those projects. So a few key ones that I know I missed. So much mind reading from Fiona. Tony, another suggestion. Have you thought about what would happen if you don't do anything about this? Another great question. Thanks, Tony. So some detailed questions. You know, there will come a point where you can start to assume the sale. And that is assume the sale. And one of the things, and I know I've made this mistake in the past, where I have gone on and on and on in my sales process, not recognizing that the person was ready to buy. In some cases, because I've gone on and on and on, I've actually lost the sale. So it's important to be conscious, be aware of, again, the communication, the language that they're using as to when your customer or your prospect is ready to buy. So assume the sale once you get to the detailed question. Now, the detailed questions can be something like, would it be okay if I outline what we need to do to get that underway? Would it be okay if I outlined what we need to do to get that underway? All right, so that's an example of a detailed question. Now, we talked about handling objections before. It's about turning the no's into a yes. So if somebody says no, what's your automatic reaction once they say no? Do you give up on the sale at that point? Yes or no? Type that into the chat box, please. No, depends, no. All right. What's important here when you're handling objections is to list out all the types of objections that you will get within your business and develop a script in handling each objection. So it's important here to think about what types of objections may I get. Write a script out for it. So write out the objection and then a script in how you would actually handle it. Some typical objections may be a lot more than I was expecting. So it's going to cost more than I was expecting. It's over my budget. I need to talk to my wife or husband. It's not quite what I had in mind. And I know you can think of many, many more examples that you will have faced in the past. So it's important here as part of your sales process is that you document these down, every objection, and then come up with a response in how you might then handle the objection. So in dealing with objections, it's important to, number one, put the objection into the normal basket. So by that I mean, so Tony, I totally understand that. That's what most people normally say. The second point is to repeat the objection back to the customer in their language. So, Tony, it's important that I understand here that what you're saying is that you really don't have the budget for this project to start with.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So repeat the objection back to the customer in their language. The third point is go back over the key points and reiterate the benefits for. Okay, so as part of the solution that you were providing, you would have outlined some benefits. So it's important to reiterate what those benefits are. The fourth step is before proceeding, ask if there's anything else that might stop them from buying right now and deal with each objection before finalizing a yes or no. So handling objections is how you actually turn a no into a yes. And again, it's through asking more questions. Because, well, remember this, the best salespeople never stop learning and are continually developing their sales skills through training, reading books, understanding people, and adapting their communication styles to deal with those different disc styles, different people. So objection handling is a very important part of your process. And if you do and follow your sales process properly, once you get to that point of asking a detailed question, the person won't have any objections left. So this is what's important to understand here. Some recommended reading is Jeffrey Gitomer's Sales Bible and also Brian Tracy's Advanced Selling Strategies. Other good books are Spin Selling, The Little Red Book of Selling, and any other books that you can get on sales. I particularly enjoy the Sales Bible because it's written in the language that we Australians tend to probably prefer over, even though Jeffrey is from the United States, he's written it really, really well. So let's now move on to customer service. So if we can ask, do your customers, when they leave your business, are they feeling satisfaction or delight? Type into the chat box where you think they are. Relief. Right? What's important to understand here is that you really want your customers to be leaving your business delighted. So can anybody describe for me, maybe come off mute for this one, what is the difference between satisfaction or delight? Anyone?
Expectations and just meeting them for the satisfaction level, and exceeding them in a remarkable way for the delight level.
Yep. And what does delight actually do for them? If they're feeling delighted?
It eliminates buyer's remorse. It gets them buy-in if they still have work to do as a result of the sale.
Yep.
And they just feel great about having said yes.
Yes, so they'll feel delighted that they've actually made the decision to buy. Yep, great. Thanks, Fiona. All right. So customers want customer satisfaction. But what they talk about more, or talk about getting more than what they expected. So when they're out talking to people, they well, I guess, I want you to think of an activity here. So think of a buying experience that you've had where they've told their friends and family about it. Why did they tell the people about it? So can anybody give me an example that, again, come off mute for this one, where you've had a buying experience and you've gone out and told your family and friends about it?
So there's two sorts. So there's the one where you've had a not particularly good experience, you tend to tell everybody around about it and
Yep.
don't care. And then when I've had a good experience, I'm usually telling them about how it's made me feel hopeful and positive, and this is where I'm going to go and what I'm going to get out of it. And you should go along and get that too.
Yep. So great example. Thanks, Selena. So when you think about your business then, do you want people walking away satisfied or delighted? They may say they're satisfied, but there'll be something about it that they'll go away and talk negatively to their family and friends. And that's the bit that you don't want to have in your business. So good service is about being proactive. Don't wait until there's a problem to start taking care of your customers. Right? We'll do that one again. So be proactive, making sure that your sales systems, your customer service systems are there preventing problems before they actually start to occur. So customers will always expect you to get better. Now, has anybody ever read the Paddy Lund story? Anybody know who Paddy Lund is? All right, so I'm going to encourage you to Google Paddy Lund, and it's spelled P-A-D-I-L-U-N-D. Paddy is a dentist in Brisbane, and what he's done in his business is you can't actually book it. You can't walk in his door. His front door to his dentistry is locked. You have to ring and book an appointment. And once you get in there, he's got this, what he calls critical non-essentials. So it's the way that he serves his customers, and I guess the the things that he does that gives them the wow factor. So again, I really encourage you to Google that story. You can download a PDF for free, just in what those critical non-essentials are. So think about how can you keep innovating that's going to help your customers keep expecting you to keep getting better. Now, people leave businesses and don't come back. So the stats on it are is 1% is because they're of a death, they die. The 3% is because they move location. 5% is they start buying from a friend. 9% is sold, they'll move to a competitor. 14% will be on product or price. What's interesting is that 68% of people stop coming back because of perceived indifference. All right, come off mute. Tell me what you think that means. Angie, what do you think that means?
We were just saying that, yeah, that's why we like to go out to eat, and often the worst experiences we've had are in places where, yeah, you feel like you're not important and you're almost like annoying to them. So yeah, even though the food might be incredible, you'll never go back because you've had that horrible experience. Exactly.
Yep. And yeah, this was a caption that I found somewhere. I felt it was really relevant. Yeah. So again, perceived indifference. What some examples here? Have you ever been to a medical centre or a government centre run by the government, where you approach somebody at the reception desk? They don't even look up at you. They don't even acknowledge that you're there. So, you know, if you have a reception desk, and train your staff that if somebody comes to the counter, even if they're on the phone, is to at least look at them and acknowledge them. Really important thing to do. At that minimum, at least make that eye contact. Or I'll be with you in a minute. Look for body language that a customer has a question or is looking for some service. How often have you walked in to a shop somewhere and you've stood looking, waiting, trying to catch a salesperson's eye to come and help you? I know a recent example that I can give personally was it was our 45th wedding anniversary, and I took my wife down to the local jewelry store to buy some jewelry. And we walked in. Within 30 seconds, I leaned over her shoulder and said, "I have to get out of here. I can't stay in here." The business owner was in the shop smoking, and the whole shop just stunk of smoke. So, yeah, again, perceived indifference. I'm never going to set foot in that shop ever again.
That's not perceived. That's legit.
Yeah.
There's no disputing that one.
So again, you know, these are the things that, you know, when you consider perceived indifference, what people perceive is that you just don't care as a business owner. So it's important that you get customer service in that respect. Absolutely, really important in every business. So customer service is about consistency. It's about making it easy to buy. How easy are you making it to buy for your customers? And providing that wow factor. Easy to buy. An example that I can use here is, you know, back, let's say 15, 20 years ago, you'd walk into a hardware store, not the chains that are around today, and you go to buy, you know, let's say you went to buy a nut, a bolt, and a washer. Back then, you used to have to go down 3 different aisles to find the nut, the bolt, and the washer. So the way that modern hardware stores have made it easy for us to buy is that it's all in the one section. So think about your business and how you could make it easy for your customers to buy for you, and also at the same time providing that wow factor. I'm just going to go back to that one. So again, I've been working with a trades business that part of their wow factor is that when somebody rings up or makes an inquiry and they book a job in, they've automated their processes. And part of the automation of the processes is that once the appointment is booked into the calendar, they then get sent a video of the team member who's actually going to arrive on site to do the job as a way of introduction. They've got a number of other processes in place that just prepares the prospect for when they're going to be on site. So when we come on, part of the other process is when we come on site, this is what we're actually going to do. This is how we're going to clean up, etc., etc. So think about in what different ways can you provide that wow factor. All right, write down right now 2 things that you should start doing or 2 things that you should stop doing in your business that will create a wow factor. And I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about that. Thanks for putting Paddy Lund link into the chat box too, Fiona. All right, two things you should start doing, stop doing. Actually, come off mute for this one. Who'd like to go first? Fiona?
Sure. I think to really make the wow process a little bit more wow, and to make it also easier to buy from me, removing the requirement for everyone to share their existing website passwords and credentials and all the gobbledygooky stuff that I need to do the work at the buying step, and do that as an onboarding step. So after they've bought the thing, paid the thing, committed to the thing, then worry about gathering all that extra info.
Excellent.
Doesn't get in the way.
All right, Selena. One thing we'll do.
That's good, because the second one I was struggling with. I think I actually just need to focus on learning to create a sales process and document it, like going back to basics and begin there and start building. Pretty exciting.
All right, excellent. And Angie or Andy, what's one thing for you?
We haven't really started, so I think it's to start. But yeah, coming up with that process, I think first, like Selena was saying, having that solid process to know what it is that we're doing and coming up with those wow factors. We might actually steal that video idea, Phil, so thank you. Yeah,
look, it really is something different, particularly for trades. Yeah, okay. Thanks for sharing. All right, now the ladder of loyalty. Now, with the ladder of loyalty, people will start out as being a suspect. Then they'll move up the ladder and become a prospect. Then at a point, they'll become a shopper, a customer, then a member, then an advocate. And what we really want to get them to do is to be a raving fan. So I could spend a whole session, workshop, just on the ladder of loyalty. So what's important here is that you identify exactly what all the steps are that somebody is going to go through as becoming one of your raving fan customers. So somebody is a raving fan when they do the selling for you. All right. They're out there, they're promoting you, they're promoting your business. They're actually encouraging other people to come and see you. So do you think it would be a good thing to really develop raving fans in your business? A great lesson from FedEx. And this is where they want their customers to stay, say, and pay, rather than walk, squawk, and balk. So think about your own customers, again, providing that wow factor. How can you get them to stay, say, and pay? So my challenge to you is to spend some time in reviewing where your customer service levels are currently at, and then complete what I call a SWOT analysis. So a SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And in doing this SWOT analysis, it will help assist in identifying how you can incorporate the wow factor into your business and give your customers a delightful experience when you're dealing with them. So in terms of recommended reading, Ken Blanchard has a great book called Raving Fans. Ken's also the author of the 1 Minute Manager series. So again, recommended reading there. And then also Purple Cow by Seth Godin. And the purple cow is, how do you be the purple cow in a herd of black and white or brown cows? So some great reading in terms of those two books as well. Now, in Warren Buffett's words, it's not necessary to do extraordinary things to get in extraordinary results. And it's the little things that you do and do a little bit better than what your competition does that will put you in front every time. So just remember, it's the little things. You don't have to be that much better than what your competition is. So if you want to learn more about your sales skills, as a certified DISC assessor, I can provide you with the online assessment links and spend some time debriefing you on your assessment reports and how to get the most out of your future learning and training. And for, your time, and as a reward for you here today, my offer is $199 per team member, valued at $478. If you would like to take that assessment, either scan the QR code, or you can email me right now as well. The next steps is action always beats intention. Decide what action you're going to start taking right now. If you're serious about learning how to implement the information from today's workshop effectively, or express your interest in that 12-week sales program that I mentioned a little bit earlier, please scan the QR code and book a complimentary 2-hour strategy meeting with me. And then I'll come back to you with some alternate dates that we may align our calendar. I'll say that again, align our calendars with. So thank you for investing your time today, and please remember to reach out. I'm here to help. And now, please come off mute and share your top 2 learnings from today's workshop. Who'd like to start? Your top 2 takeaways from today.
Okay, quick recap. A reminder of the question, answer, question, answer, question, answer question process
Yep.
and that last flip step. And a reminder that I can deliberately architect and design my customer service experience as if I was a franchise of some sort and not just me. That I can smooth out some bumps and deliberately do certain things at certain stages to make that better.
Great learning. Thanks for sharing, Fiona. Selena.
There are so many, but I think that thinking about how am I being proactive with my customer service, but also going back to the last thing was creating a sales process and really thinking about the objections and the scripts, because I think that's one of the big things that I have a challenge around. So I'm pretty keen to take that away and learn and try and play.
Okay, fantastic. Angie, and what's been the key learnings from both of you?
G'day. Thanks for today, Phil. It's been really good. Andy was saying he liked that questioning process, and I really liked how to deal with objections. So coming up with that little script and normalizing it for people. I thought that was quite good.
Yeah, excellent. And for you, Andy, what's something that's really appealed to you?
Yeah, the questions and answers, just asking a bit more rather than just guessing that you know all the answers before they've answered them for you.
Yeah. Really important thing to do is not do that mind read, what I call a mind read, where you think you know what the answer is, but you don't get that clarity, because sometimes you can be totally off the mark. So well done. All right, again, thank you for your time today. It is time to get into action and start boosting your sales. So I'll stop recording and happy to stay on the line for any questions. So where am I? Where's the recording button gone? There.